to come on. This is impromptu, just a conversation. Wanted to come on and talk about dragons. Maybe I'll wait because this was so impromptu. I'm just in the car thinking, and I was thinking about the content that I put out this week, and the stuff that I discussed this week. And I was like, you know what? I put out some content about dragons because dragons have been like really on the forefront, in the forefront this week. And yeah. And I wanted to come on and discuss dragons today because I know many of you are like, she's talking about dragons, and Revelation speaks to dragons as if it's Satan. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, what's up with that? Is she aligned to God, or is she aligned to Satan? And these are great questions that we must ask ourselves. Like, I don't ever want this channel to be surface level. I don't want this to be a regurgitation of all the stuff that we've heard before. Neither am I trying to reinvent the wheel. I'm just looking for truth. I'm trying to figure this thing out just like y'all are. Literally. I'm trying to get the most out of this. I'm not trying to get in where I can fit in. I'm not trying to be buddy and cool with everybody and all that. I'm really not trying to do that either, even though that's great, and I'm okay with being friendly and associating myself. But really, my main goal and my main objective is to solidify my knowing, expand my knowing. And in doing so, I have to ask these questions. When we talk about the dragon, especially the dragon within the book of Revelation, I'm going to speak more detailed on that as the weeks and the months progress. But this mythical or even this symbolic character of the dragon, who is this dragon? Like, when we look at the Bible, Christianity, the Hebraic house, whether it's the Judaic side or the Hebraic or the Christian side. In the Bible, the dragon has no positive connotations to it. I mean, it's just all negative. He's the serpent. He is the entity. He is the one that would go after the woman in the book of Revelation, not to unalive her, but to distract her. But then when we look at this serpentine character all across the world, right? Like, even if we go and we look at it in the Asian spiritual systems, when we look at it in the Quran, like, the Quran doesn't speak to a dragon. It speaks to serpents, serpentine, large serpent beasts, water, beasts that inhabit the water that are serpentine, flying serpents, what have you. And they have a different connotation on it. And it's really interesting because both the Quran, the Muslim tradition, and the Christian and Judaic side of the house, all of these were created from Abraham. They all spring forth from the same guy. And so it's interesting to see what both have to say about it. Like, when you go and you research the Quran and all that it entails, and I have not read the Quran. That's my next study. I've read the Bible. I've read my Apocrypha. And the next leg would be to read the Quran. But I have read through the Quran. And the Quran, what I found in reading the Quran is that they have a very detailed catalog on the Djinn. They have a more detailed catalog on the Djinn than the Bible. And they have a more detailed catalog on the relationship with the Djinn and these in the spirit world and the serpent. So it was really interesting to know that even in the Quran, they don't speak to dragons per se, but they equate the dragon, in a sense, to a serpent, just as the Bible does. The Bible just makes a distinguishment with the term dragon. And all of this stuff is interesting because, all of these beings play a pivotal role in the storyline, our storyline, the good versus evil storyline, right? The nemesis and the protagonist and all those in between. Yet, even when we look at the Djinn, as it relates to both what is conveyed in the any of the Judaic texts and in what is conveyed in the Quran or any other system across the planet, we know that there are whole families of Djinn, that they live a long time, and there's a lot of diversity within this species of being. And you have within this diversity in intention, right? All of the Djinn are not wicked. You got good Djinn. You got Djinn that align to whatever spiritual systems that you align to. You got Djinn that align to the Judaic philosophy. You got Djinn that align to the Muslim philosophy. You've got all kind of Djinn. Friend, the spiritual world is so vast. You think that there's many of us inhabiting this planet? Multiply that by 10 or 20. And now you're looking at just the world of the Djinn. Not to mention anything else. It's like that. We are a minority in the sea of spirit. Our physical manifestation on this planet is an absolute minority as it relates to the sea of beings that inhabit the invisible realm within this realm. So if the Djinn, the genie, are diverse, you can't just say, oh, Djinn, when you say Djinn, it doesn't leave, it should not lend you a negative connotation. It's not like, okay, when we say Djinn, all of them are wicked. Just like when we say the word Satan, we think, okay, all of them are wicked. It's not the same way with the Djinn. When you say the Djinn, you're just speaking to a particular segment of the spiritual realm, those that inhabit this spiritual realm, a specific species, but they're all not wicked. It's kind of like saying human or man. What does that mean? Man. Oh, okay, man. Mankind, man. Let's just say man. Is that good or bad? Well, it's whatever you are familiar with, first of all. Whatever you have experienced. So if you're experienced with man and you're not man or that species, if you're a Djinn, and you hear the word man, and if your only experience has been with low-level people of that group of beings, you will equate it to that. But if you've been around enough of us and you've seen the diversity, you will say, no, all of them are not the same. Is this the same way with dragons? If dragons are serpents, follow me here. Dragons are serpents. And they've been here since the beginning. It is written in many spiritual texts and systems, ancient systems, that when it's all said and done, there will only be one remaining. And that will be a serpent. And if serpents are just another term for dragon, then that means them. It's interesting. If they were here and they were here from the beginning, that old serpent of old, the Bible says it. And if they will be the one single thing remaining, then we must be dealing with a family of species. It can't just be one. There must be huge amounts of diversity within this species, similar to the Djinn. Anybody got a word? I sure would like to interact. It's thought provoking. It's extremely thought provoking. When we look at all of these ancient systems, anyway, I'm going to go deeper on it. But I was sitting here thinking about it, because this dragon figure has played a pivotal role in my week. Well, I don't know if it played a pivotal role. It's been on my mind this week. It's been on my mind. You know, I've had a very eventful week. My dad, like I said, transitioned this week. And on the day that my dad transitioned, I was surrounded by imagery of dragons. And these dragons, in my life, I've had, So it makes me wonder, when we hear things, you know what I mean, about certain things, just like we hear, you know, we label things such and such, but I don't know if they're accurate labels. You know what I mean? Like, the body could be so expansive that it's not accurate to label it as that. You know? Like humans. If you weren't a human and you interacted with humans, would you say humans are good or bad? You would only be able to relate to the humans you've come into contact with. You would have to say they're this or they're that. And it's all dependent upon the level of exposure that you've had with that species. All of it is dependent upon your level of exposure. And this is not reinventing a wheel. This is not rewriting anything. This is fact finding. This is searching a thing. Because how? If it was there in the beginning, and it will be the only single thing that remains, you gotta follow me on that. How? If it was there in the beginning and it is the only single thing that remains, how is it wicked? It must be a certain group that has turned rogue. And that is what it was said in the Bible. And that is what makes up the Christian ideology, the Judaic house, is that these beings turned rogue. It was a portion of them. that turned rogue. They were angels. This is what the Bible conveys. But if Genesis conveys this angel as a serpent, and a serpent is contingent with a dragon, we're talking about the same thing. We're talking about the same thing, y'all. So the entire species is not wicked. Oh, it's not. It's a portion of them that are wicked. And God does not speak to the entire family of these beings because he doesn't have to. He speaks to the one or the ones that he needs to speak to because of their behavior pattern. And because he needs us to know that such a thing exists within this particular species. Yet, because of this focus that has been put on the species in the way that it has, it's jaded it. Seemed like for everybody. Everybody of that species has been jaded, labeled. And I'm just talking, y'all. I'm just going forward with what I have uncovered and what I'm linking together. I would love it if somebody would hop on and give me their perspective on this. This dragon conversation is all a hypothetical, y'all. All of these things. So I just want to make that very clear. This is not a Bible study. This is not a Sunday service. This is just me up here communicating with you about things that that we hear about, but we are not, I don't believe we have a very solid grasp on as a collective the way we probably should. Yeah, so, but it doesn't matter because I'm in here talking to myself anyway. That's the beauty of it. When when Genesis speaks to these serpents, and then when you look at even in the Indian culture, not the Indian, American Indian, but the Indian, I call them Kushite, but Indians from India, Ethiopian. Well, nonetheless, Indians from India. They have a very vast level of insight on this Djinn family. Just like in Asia, they have a very vast insight. They have very vast insight on the Naga, the serpentine beings of Asia. You see, these Naga are contingent to the serpent of Eden as well. That's what they say. These Naga. Very wise masters. And they say that these Naga were the ones that came and gave this knowledge. And some of them, not all of them, because they have a very vast network of people. Not all of them are the same. There's different groups and denominations and types. They're just like we are. So different bloodlines, different, but all of the same species. And those that gave the knowledge were, I guess you could say, disinherited. They were disembodied, and they were not able to recreate themselves within this physical world. They had a threshold before they were just completely siphoned out, meaning that even in in the unseen realm, they had a threshold that they would need to that they would have being disembodied before they were just completely siphoned out of the cycle of things within this. It's kind of like, you go and you transition from a body to a non-body. And there's a threshold within that consciousness can be pervasive within this realm. Whether, I don't know if it has to do with your children being born of your vine and it allows you to have some sort of longevity in the invisible, or you're receiving some form of energy as far as attention is concerned. People remembering you, and it keeps you here, active here in the invisible realm. But whatever that was, God had established it so that they would be siphoned out after a certain amount of time. They could not be called upon in spirit for direction, for whatever. They would have reached that threshold where they would no longer be accessible, even though they were disembodied. And it is said that these are the ones that, some of them were the ones that had given this information. I need to brush up on that, and I need to, that's interesting. It's interesting that I'm focusing on that now and how it's played a role. It's very interesting. These beings are very conscious. They're not their way of teaching is through experience. That's how they teach. It's trial and error. It literally is. It's trial and error. It's not sit down at the table. I'm going to teach you today about the ABCs. And we're going to master that. And then we're going to grow from that to cursive. And then we're going to grow from that to reading novels. And it ain't that. But then it is that. It is that too. What's missing is that they're not doing it in a way that you will be able to trace it. There's no real table. The table is your path in life and the experiences you have. And there's no right or wrong decisions, because all the decisions that you have are going to lead you down a path that's going to teach you something about yourself and in turn about them. And they do this because they work through people. They got a vast network of people, friend. Just like God can use people to do goodness, and he has an abundance of people network of people that he could call upon at any time to assist you in moving in goodness and in righteousness. Friend, there's a whole network of people that can be called upon to assist you, or that can be called upon to hinder you and to do wickedness. And all will be used. All will be used dependent upon the paths you choose. But regardless, you will learn. You'll learn. These entities don't communicate like me and you on this app or face to face. It's not like that. They communicate inadvertently, and a lot of times inadvertently. And sometimes they can communicate directly in the form of thoughts. They use people. They stack experiences against themselves to speak a thing. This is intelligence. This is the intelligence that I'm speaking about. They can gauge where you are by way of your actions. That's how they know. Because you can have a lot of knowledge. You can have a curious mind and absorb all kinds of information. But how do you process it? At what rate and in what way? That's the part. It's interesting. It's very interesting. Talking about dragons and serpents and Djinn, for anybody that came late. The unseen realm. The spiritual realm. And how it relates to us. How it relates to us. I spoke to earlier about how David was being hunted by Saul, but he really couldn't talk to anybody about it. And he legitimized it. He knew he was being hunted without having any proof. But then when he knew that Jonathan found out and Jonathan could substantiate it, he knew then, okay, I'm on to something. But even then, David didn't go around crying in everybody's ear about him being attacked by Saul. You never hear David talking about it to his men or to anybody. The only time you hear David discussing it is when he's facing Saul. And that's kind of how it is. Because like I said, these entities, they work through people. Friend, they will work through your family. Your family could be being manipulated by thoughts that come to them from these entities. This is how they do it. They know you and me better than we know ourselves. They know our weaknesses. They know what provokes us. They know our insecurities. And they've been doing these things for so long that they've mastered us. That's why when you come into a knowing, it's hard to really communicate your knowing to people around you because everybody ain't at the same level. And you got some people that are being puppeteered by these entities. Facts. They are. In one way or another, all of us get puppeteered by these entities. Nobody is exempt from it, so there's no shade here. But there are some that get puppeteered more than others. Just because they haven't evolved, they haven't healed, they haven't aligned in a way where they can establish some dominance within their own creation. That's how they get you. It's always at the things that you're weak in that they use against you to cause maybe some kind of a distance or an increased divide between you and someone else. This is what they do. And this is why it's said that in order to be able to withstand or to stand amongst certain of these beings, when you look it up in ancient texts, whether it's the Quran or ancient texts across this planet, fire and these beings are contingent with one another. Why? Because it is the purging, it is the fire component of you going through the fire that grants you command within that environment. Why? Because you've been purged, you've been refined, you've been fine-tuned, you've been stripped down of the things that don't matter, and you're standing in your creation and in the power of that. It takes mastery to get through the chaos and the fire. Everybody ain't gonna make it through. It takes discipline, it takes mastery, it takes courage, it takes dedication. You don't get through those things with a crowd. You don't get through those things with someone that you can rely upon for advice. You get through those things by leaning on your own knowing. Being your own person to go to for advice, by not ever needing to feel like, oh, I need to run it by somebody, or oh, I wish I had somebody I could run it by. You don't need that. You're completely self-sufficient. And that is the goal of this life, is to make us all self-sufficient. To take the love component from within our own selves and let it reverberate out throughout all of our relationships without any fear. Being strong enough to let it show and to know that you have what it takes to withstand whatever may come by showing that vulnerable side of yourself, because you're really that. You really are. That's the only way you stand before these things. Whether it be a dragon or a genie or whatever. Because they know all the weak spots. And it was God's initial creation of us to do such things. You've got to remember the story. Is that they didn't want for this to come about. Their creation is to try us. It's been the same thing all along. We've just been whining about it. Because it's easier to whine about it and say, oh, it's hard and they got me again and now, they tricked me and now I've been cursed and I don't want to deal with the curse. So let's just partner with them. I'll just bow down to that type of thing. It was never that for you. It was always a journey. It was always going to be hard. That's why God made this world so beautiful, because the walk is tedious, friend. You need it to be beautiful to offset the difficulties that you will experience in this walk. It's hard. It's hard as hell. But you know what happens after you get used to dealing with hard stuff? It's not hard anymore. It's only when you're not used to dealing with it that it becomes even more harder. It's your creation. It's what you were created to do when you were brought forth into this life. And I'm here to tell you that there are those within that family of beings that at one hand don't want you to rise up to the occasion because that is who they are innately. They're disagreeable. They are accusatory. They're going to make it difficult for you because that was their creation. But on the other hand, when they see one stepping into certain circles and rising to certain occasions, it reminds them of something innate within them, their own selves. And they must assist. They must. It's written in the code, friend. Goes back to Adam and Eve. They must assist. They must assist. I'm going to continue on about the dragons and about the Naga. I haven't spoken to that at all on this channel. And I have not even the Djinn, really. I did speak to it a little bit, but that's a vast world. Yet much of what we experience in our daily lives have to do with them. And this is what the Christian Bible is speaking to when it speaks to the books of Revelation, and even in the supporting books and the prophecies along the way. And it speaks to the coming back together of these things, the realignment, the coming back into balance. When it says the cockatrice will lie down with the such and such, and the lion will lie down with this, all of these things will come back into alignment. But they won't do it. It's as if the ancients knew that they could write a thing and then go about life in a way in their writing to make it come about. It's like writing a story. As if they're writing a thing for those in the invisible to make sure is manufactured without us knowing. Even if it has to do with tripping us up and then allowing us to come full circle in our knowledge. What we look at as a negative, oh, they fooled us and they did this and that and Eve was tricked, and we will go from ironing out all of that, blaming one another, being discouraged, trying to find an easy way out, to then owning it, moving through it, making mistakes. All of these things we will need to do on our journey into knowing ourselves. And in knowing ourselves, we know everything else. All is within, friend. Once you know yourself, everything else falls into alignment. Once I learn me, I can learn other things easily because they are mere extensions of what goes on within me. They would write it out. And the invisible hand that moves all the pieces on the board would implement it. And we will learn. They will implement it for us to learn. Thus, at the end of the day, all comes back full circle. We're brought back online. We've gained what we were created to gain. We fulfilled the promise. Justifying God to honor His word. To no longer count us as an embarrassment. In a sense. You go from blaming to accountable. You go from blaming and feeling powerless to being accountable and feeling capable and knowing from whence your power comes. This is the word for you, and it all has to do with love. Without love, it would be no motivation to do it. Love is the fuel. All is well. Digging the hair. Oh, thanks, friend. I didn't put my glasses on. Y'all might have been talking to me the whole time, and I didn't see it. Harrison. Who else is here? Let's see here. Thank you, Harrison. Yeah, I'm just on here talking, y'all. Thank you, Victor Evans. Like less. I don't know what that means. Yeah, I'm just kicking back here, talking. Anybody want to join me? Anybody want to have a comment and share your perspective? Nah. Oh. All is well, y'all. All is well. I was talking about dragons and the Djinn and the serpents, the Nagas, the serpentine beings. Dragons, serpents, and Nagas. Yeah. Very interesting. Very interesting. these Nagas. I mean, everywhere you go, you see them. These serpentine beings, these dragons, and from Quetzalcoatl to the plumed Quetzalcoatl, the plumed serpent. I mean, all over this planet, everywhere. Literally everywhere. And it's like, oh, it's like you could read things, but then when you have your own level of experiences, it adds a level of clarity that you just can't deny. Not saying that, I've had any experiences with that, but what I'm saying is just in general, if you know the difference, if you know, okay, what I read and then what I experienced, could this be the same thing with this concept? You leave room for that. It's fascinating. It's fascinating. It literally is fascinating. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and head on out, y'all, because it's getting dark and I'm going to go in the house. Oh, you're loved more than you'll ever know. You are. If only you knew how much you're loved. If only you knew who walked with you. If only you knew who walked with you. We'd all be firing off on all cylinders up in here. But everybody doesn't get it at the same time. You know what I mean? That's the beauty of life. That's what makes life so unique and interesting. Everybody's on their own journey. So there is no wrong. There is no failure. We'll all arrive at our appropriate time where we need to be. Keep going. Peace and love.